Hi, this is Russ. Welcome to Old Fogey Yoga. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate some of the neck stretches that I have been using to help to keep my neck muscles and shoulder muscles limber and to help me keep my neck mobile and to reduce the pain in that entire area. I've been reluctant to make this video because these stretches are kind of grotesque, where I really have to put some strength into twisting my neck and stretching it out. I'm also putting lots of strange forces on my face and contorting my face when I do these stretches sometimes. These neck stretches that I'm about to do are pretty painful. And a lot of people may be wondering, well, why are you putting yourself through all this pain to stretch your body out? Um, well, one of the reasons is that if you have a lot of damage in your neck, you may feel stabbing sensations in your neck that are pretty horrendous. And these stretches will actually help to reduce that pain. So if I don't do these neck stretches, I will feel in 3 different places on each side of my neck the sensation of being stabbed with an ice pick. And that's pretty horrible. And so these stretches will actually help to reduce that pain. Also, I will get a sensation of someone just grinding an ice pick underneath my shoulder blade. And that is also horrible. And these neck stretches can help to alleviate that pain as well. So it's important that we do these stretches, and otherwise, pain pills are probably the only thing that's going to address it. And then what kind of life are you going to have if you're on opiate painkillers and propped up in front of a TV all day? So you want to try to counteract what your body is doing. It is painful, but overall, it's going to give you use of your joints and your muscles and your bones the way you're supposed to be able to move. And it's going to allow you to naturally address the pain that you would otherwise be riddled with. One of the things that often occurs is these muscles have been contracting for so long and they're so stiff and sore that once you stretch them out for a while and you give them a little bit of a break from being contracting all the time, when you release that stretch, everything kind of goes back to the way it was. It's incredibly painful going from that stretch back into a resting position. And those muscles are kind of confused about what they're even supposed to be doing. Sometimes I will go into some mild convulsions in that area where those muscles just kind of react and trip out, and they're trying to figure out how they're supposed to behave. So this whole stretching exercise here that I'm about to show you is not going to be a flattering looking stretch. It's a stretch that I always try to never do in public because it's so odd looking. But sometimes I end up in those public situations where I just have to. But this is a great stretch to do. I do it first thing in the morning before I ever get out of bed. I do it last thing before I go to sleep. And I will wake up in the middle of the night and do this stretch and do it multiple times throughout the day. So I can do the stretches while sitting down just by putting one hand at the base of my skull, the other on my jaw, and giving myself a nice twist. Doctors will often tell patients to stretch their neck. It's obviously a good thing to always stretch your muscles, especially when they are resistant to that stretching. But doctors generally will tell people to turn their head to their side and then go up and down. And these are all good stretches that you should be doing, but they miss a lot of the critical muscles that are really being affected by the injuries in your neck. So by doing these stretches, I can target specific muscles, like these scalene muscles that are on the side of the neck, and I can get a stretch that goes down into my spine in the neck area. And then I can also achieve an effect that I call a ricochet, where this neck muscle is going to connect to the spine. And so you can start to pull the vertebrae that that those neck muscles are connected to, when that vertebra pulls away, it's going to pull the muscle that's connected to your shoulder blade. And then your shoulder blade is going to start to stretch and move back to the position where it's supposed to be. And then there's a muscle that's connected from the shoulder blade down to the mid back in the spine. And so that's going to then pull that vertebrae or those vertebrae back to where they belong. And so you can actually get this ricochet effect that goes all the way down your spine. I can get a stretch from the base of my skull all the way down into the mid back and even into the upper ribs. And I can get adjustments in my spine. I can actually get my shoulder blade sometimes to reposition and shift back to where it's supposed to be. And I can get my ribs to pop back in place if they're out of position. So this is really an intense stretch. It looks strange and it's not a very comfortable one to do, but the benefits from it are really amazing. And the amount of different parts of your body you can help to stretch out and put into correct position is really incredible. So I recommend this stretch if you have a lot of neck damage. And again, you can do it sitting. And basically, rather than just twisting your head, as doctors often tell people to do, or move it up and down, or to bend side to side, you want to use a combination of all three of those movements to target any specific muscle that is giving you a lot of problems. And you may have multiple. So you might find that this stretch reaches down and really works some muscles that are important. And then if you slightly change up that stretch, you can target different muscles. Now I'm going to show this laying down as well. That's my favorite way of sinking in this stretch. If you have the ability to lay down when you need to do this stretch, that's where you're really going to get the most benefit from it. And also, one of the things that I want to show you while I'm doing this is the fact that you can use different skull features to help you get that stretch, to target it into different muscle groups. So one of the things you'll see me doing is to put my fingers here on my cheekbone or just underneath my cheekbone, and that will allow me to push my head up and really extend my neck out as I'm doing this stretch. And then I'll have another hand that's beneath the base of my skull, also pulling and twisting my head. And so I'm getting these multiple vectors working on my neck, and that allows me to focus the stretch into a particular muscle that's bothering me at the time. All right. So this is how I stretch the muscles laying down. Again, I'm having to push into my face and kind of contort my face with my hands. And right now, I'm really focusing in on the muscle that connects to the shoulder blade from above. And I'm trying to drag that shoulder blade back up to where it's supposed to be. I've got other muscles beneath the shoulder blade that are contracting and pulling it down. And every once in a while, I'll get a nice pop and get that shoulder blade to jump back to where it's supposed to be. And then once your muscles begin to contract again, it's just going to move it back out. So this is a constant tug of war that you're doing with your body, trying to resist your body pulling all of these muscles and bones together, getting them to constrict and to immobilize your joints. Again, you don't want that. You don't want your joints to be stiff and immobile. You want to keep those muscles stretched out, keep your joint mobile, and make sure that all your bones can still move the way that they're supposed to move. And so that's why we do these stretches, is to keep our joints and limbs mobile rather than letting our body make them immobile. Mm. I got a nice little pop there in my neck. I'm going to roll over to the opposite side. So that was a little bit of the convulsions that I sometimes get after stretching these muscles. Again, these muscles are just so sore and tense, and they've been contracting for so long that once you put a nice stretch into them and then release that stretch, they get a bit confused as to what they're supposed to actually be doing, and they might freak out a little bit and cause some of those convulsions. Also, when you drag your shoulder blade back to where it's supposed to be, and put some stretches in some of these muscles, when you release that, everything goes back to where it wants to rest, and that can be pretty painful and cause some convulsions too. It's just part of this process. All right, I've moved a little closer to the camera, and I'm just going to go through these stretches again. Hopefully, you'll be able to see in a little bit more detail. If it wasn't easy to see, all right, now in this stretch, I'm pulling my head to the side from the base of my skull. And then with my other hand, I'm twisting slightly and then also pushing up against my cheekbone and my jaw to get a bit of a lengthening effect in my neck. If your neck is really all jammed up, your vertebrae are going to be very close together. They may even be resting one on top of the other. And any type of stretches that you do, you can cause a grinding in those vertebrae. And so you definitely want to avoid that. You're always trying to get as much of a stretch in your spine as you can get so that those vertebrae are pulled apart. And then when you flex your neck, then they're not going to be gnashing against each other. It's very, very important. Also, you want to beware of the opposite side of your neck. So as I do a stretch on the right side, if I use too much pressure, or if I get into the wrong position, I run a risk of pinching a nerve on the left side of my neck. And I definitely want to avoid that. Now, if you're not really familiar with the difference between nerve pain and joint pain, muscle pain, all these different varieties of pain, when you're stretching a muscle, you should feel kind of a dull ache throughout, that entire muscle. And that's indicating that you're getting a nice stretch in that muscle and that the muscle is responding. If you feel a pain that feels like a stabbing sensation and it's very precise in a very small location, or anything that feels like an electric shock or having hot water splashed on you, those are indications of nerve pain, and that you definitely want to avoid. If you're feeling any nerve pain with any stretching that you do, you may really want to consider whether that stretch is doing more harm than good. And you may want to talk to a doctor about that. I would suggest probably that if you're feeling that nerve pain, you probably want to just no longer do that stretch. Maybe you can find another stretch that will help. Right now, I'm talking about some very intense neck stretches. I've made a video also called Throwing Your Head, and that can give you a very gentle stretch in your neck and shoulders. And maybe you can do that and get some relief from using that more gentle stretch and not really cranking on your neck as I'm doing in these stretches, which are effective, but like I say, they can also run a risk of pinching a nerve, which would be very bad. As I do this stretch, it's actually getting into this muscle in the side of my shoulder. So it's just kind of a way of showing you how interconnected all these muscles are, that even muscles that you're really not trying to target with this stretch, you're going to feel a stretch in those muscles just because everything is connected and it all works together in one system. Well, hopefully those neck stretches allow you to loosen up your neck and your shoulders and to get a little relief from that pain.